So I think that we have to set the stage for anyone who may be watching, I guess, or listening today, or whenever you're listening to this, because Jessica, you may float away. I think.
I think so. Yeah, we've got a lot of rain. Hurricane Debbie is gonna be making her presence in North Carolina, I think.
Man, and is it? I think Master said it earlier though. Your background looks good. Looks like this is actually your office. Is that a real window, or are we?
It's a real window. Just the sun showers. So at least it's still daylight. It makes it a little less dreary with all the rain.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Do you have house animals that freak out with all the crazy weather that's going on there?
Yeah, that's also a good thing to warn people of. The 2 dogs, if there's thunder, we might have an echo of dog barking at the thunder if it comes. We'll see.
They're saving your life, but every time they bark.
And actually, my Alexa just went off and dogs to make dogs bark. So that's
okay.
Moment around here.
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Well, are we ready to jump in? We've got some fun stuff to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
CXR Channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Recruiting Community Podcast, weekly talent acquisition insights and updates delivered in the form of a conversation. I am your host, Han, and with me I have host Chewy. How are you, Chewy? Chewy's got a little bit of lag.
Lightsabers.
There you go. Okay, good reference. I'll take it. I'll take the reference. That's perfect. Look, when we had HireBrain on for our June Spotlight Day, we knew we really wanted to learn more about this hiring manager focused approach that they have come up with. And they've got this methodology that sort of defines roles for using future facing performance objectives and all the things, right? Really, really interesting platform that we really enjoyed. But we have a treat today in that we have a guest coming in, a client who's going to talk about incorporating that new tool into their digital transformation, their AI enablement strategy. So I'm excited about that. A few things first, though. We're streaming on the YouTube, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitch. You can check out past and future episodes at cxr.org/podcast. Super easy to do. If you happen to be joining us live on LinkedIn in the stream, we're going to go ahead and ask that you say hello in the chat. You can ask questions of our guests or of Jerry and myself, and we may just throw them up on the screen to show those off to you. A couple of things we just want to remind you about, a little housekeeping before we jump in. The CXR Marketplace is up and running. This is a member-designed platform that is essentially, I think we've got about, I want to say about 500 or so vendors and solution providers that sit in there. We got about 7,000 ratings and reviews that have been added by our members, and it is now open to anybody who would like to log in and register in order to rate and review other vendors that are out there. You can also invite your favorite vendors. But the beauty of that is after, I think, Jerry, you have to keep me honest, after they have rated 3 or more, the community features begin to get unlocked.
Yeah, I like that feature the most. The fact of the matter is I want to be able to talk to the people and benchmark with the folks who are actually using it. And I don't need the experts telling me all the BS. I'd like to know how it really works as a solution. And that's the feature that I think is most valuable.
You did ask when we were putting a lot of this together, was there a button we could hit that just removed all adjectives? You were pretty adamant that was important for any of the marketing.
I was. I'd love to know what the solution is. I don't need to know the hype behind it.
Yeah, peel all that away and just talk to me about what's going on. All right. Well, speaking of what's going on, we've got some guests here. Let's go ahead and bring them in. We've got David and Master and, of course, Jessica. And I'm in the top corner. I'm going to go ahead and wear the headband. I've got a headband on today, the CXR.Works headband. So that'll be me in the corner. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to have you. Let's do this. We'll do one at a time, and we'll just rotate through it so that everybody kind of can get a feel for who we're talking with today. I know a couple of you have been on before, but it's a nice reminder for those who maybe are just dialed in. Why don't each of you give us just kind of a quick escalator pitch? And David, we'll start with you. Who's David, and why are we paying attention to you today?
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I'll try to use as few adjectives as possible. Although I'm terrible, I'm the worst punchline person. Somebody said that the other day. What's the punchline? I don't know. So thanks for having us. My name is David Nason, and I'm the CEO and founder of HireBrain, and we are a hiring enablement platform. We're going to dig into what that is here today. We originally started as a training program. We built a comprehensive end-to-end manager and executive training, and eventually started to build applications for originally managers to use before, during, and even after the hiring cycle to ensure the highest probability of success. And we've evolved today to become a hiring enablement platform to drive collaboration between recruiting organizations and business organizations, where a recruiting organization can use our platform to truly become and realize that business advisory, if you will, with the organizations that they support. So thanks for having me.
Love that. Well, glad you're here. Master, how about you next? Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've been in the recruiting space for well over 20 years now. Started off as a technology recruiter here in the Silicon Valley, and then moved into an advisory practice kind of role, doing some talent best practice work and evangelism and global training. And then jumped into the world of talent communities with a company called Brave New Talent. And then jumped out of recruiting for a little while and worked in competitive and market intelligence. And I'm coming back into the world of recruiting with HireBrain. That's me.
Love that. And glad to have you back. We get to see more of you this way, so it's great.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I'm Jessica McNulty. I lead global operations for talent acquisition at Nutanix. I live in North Carolina, hence the rain from the storm right now. But I have been recruiting for the last 10 years. I actually started as a recruiting coordinator, which I think gave me the love of the operations when it comes to recruiting, and then spent time as a recruiter as well before specializing in recruitment programs and operations. So at Nutanix, really runs the gamut. Those that in recruiting operations know that we have the opportunity to have a lot of hats and run everything from our budgets, compliance, programs, processes, and then partnering with vendors like HireBrain. So happy to be here today.
I love it. Well, we're glad you joined us. And I am anxious to hear the story. But first, I think what we've got to do is set the stage for what is HireBrain. Because in my intro, I got a lot of the words and a lot of the things, and it says all the stuff. But can you give us kind of an overview, literally a quick pitch that sort of encompasses what HireBrain is and does, David?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, one way that I explain it sometimes, we've infused learning experiences with software applications to actually do the job. So if you imagine Salesforce doesn't train anybody how to be a great salesperson, right? Arguably maybe love Salesforce, but sometimes it gets in the way, right? So with HireBrain, like I said, we originally started as a training program. We eventually built our own e-learning platform, which is an experiential e-learning, so that people can actually do the thing, if you will, that they're learning about while they're learning about it. And they had when you have completed it, you've basically completed a first, what we call is effectively role design. So we teach people how to build a forward-facing view of a job. So we've been hiring against job descriptions forever. That's like a laundry list of things maybe you want to see in a candidate, among other things that job descriptions, maybe are. But what our methodology taught was build a forward-facing view of a role. What does somebody actually need to do to be successful? How are you measured? How are you managed? What are the objectives of the position? What business challenges are you trying to solve for? And then a 12 to 18 month role or plan of success in the position. That was our first, application. And then since then it's grown. So today we have a job description optimization suite of tools. We have anything from Why am I blanking here, Master? I'm just blanking.
I think David, just to round it out, role design is the foundation of HireBrain. And then over the last 2 years, a number of applications have come up. So anywhere the hiring manager touches the hiring process, HireBrain has introduced an application that supports that process, but from the hiring manager's perspective. So that includes intake. So we have some AI-assisted intake tools that then pre-populate role designs so that at no point in time is anyone who touches the process duplicating effort. But it really does. It takes all of the process that isn't touched by technology in most infrastructure and adds the technology around it for the hiring manager and the recruiter to better collaborate.
I like that, and I keep hearing this focus on hiring managers, and I do want to learn how focusing on the hiring manager actually changes that recruitment process, right? How that trickles downstream. And I'd love to hear feedback that you're receiving already from hiring managers about that approach. And I assume Jessica is going to be able to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do we want to set the stage, Jessica, for the challenges that you had, and why HireBrain? Why reach out to HireBrain, and I mean, give these guys a go.
Yeah. So I think you're so right that a lot of it's focused on the hiring manager. And when I have conversations with David and Master and their team, we spend a lot of time saying, hey, like, how do we rewrite our relationship with these hiring managers? How do we right the ship without, completely changing every piece of our process? And we needed something to fill a space that was blank for us, which was at that, pre-recruiting starting, like when we have a rec that's open and we want to get started. I mean, we need to have a good foundation there. So HireBrain allowed us to insert a new process and a new tool in this case and start to build that foundation with, like David said, the job descriptions, the role design, the competencies, and then from there sort of add on enhancing our process down the road. Again, without having to, I said this yesterday, having to tear down the house, we were able to pour a new foundation. And that was really awesome for us, and a kind of a unique approach that I'd never seen before.
And what feedback are you getting from the hiring managers about that approach? I mean, we know that traditionally we love to hate on our hiring managers, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I couldn't start with, we all know hiring managers. I would be lying if I said we didn't get grumbles at first. I mean, but that's normal, right? But it's interesting. Like we always say, it's like, just do it. Just dive in. And once they do it, they're like, whoa, I spent a couple hours up front and now I have saved myself so many hours down the road because I have a really good job description. I have a hiring plan. I have an onboarding plan. I have a foundation for a new job description for my entire team. They're like, oh, okay, this is worth it. So I think that that's really the main feedback that we're getting, and people are seeing the value beyond that, even just that hire.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting. Just super fast that people, the hiring community at Nutanix, they're creating almost 35% more things in HireBrain than they currently have a business need for. And so what do I mean by that? So they've hired X number of people this year, and they have managers have created 300 more job descriptions than they actually have an open position for today. They've created like 700 or something like that role designs against future needs, which we find to be really, really interesting. And like that was, of course, our goal was that it was engaging and that people would like to use it, but to see it in the wild, over the last couple of years and to see that kind of behavior in this site is really exciting.
I think it's really an indication of something that's compelling. If you look at the vast majority of HR infrastructure, we've had job description optimization tools for a long time. That's not unheard of. But nobody's actually fundamentally helping a hiring manager write a better design for a role, a better design or articulate their needs. In many organizations, the job description starts with something that's inherited either from a previous description, or it's inherited from the job leveling architecture, or it's stolen from a competitor, which happens a lot. Nobody is sitting down and asking a hiring manager the business-oriented questions that go into designing a role. And that's really what HireBrain is focused on. How do we ask business-oriented questions of hiring managers? and then tease out the talent acquisition information that's needed from that. And so that's really a compelling tool because it doesn't exist, whether it's for hiring or for rehiring or for promotion or just even reframing your team, which is something most hiring
We're
managers
doing
have
in
to do.
recruiting right now. We're reframing the whole recruiting team using HireBrain, and it's really cool that we can do that.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because we dog on the hiring managers a little bit. I mean, they're running the business, right? They're running their line of business. They're trying to, we're trying not to be disruptive, to bring that talent in for them. But it can be disruptive, and certainly to set that up. Talk to me a little bit about that lift. I mean, I know there's a training and an adoption piece for that front end, but how big of a lift is it to put something in place like a HireBrain, and who all is impacted on that implementation schedule?
Yeah, thanks. And Jessica can talk about this too. It's remarkably short and easy to do. It's remarkably. I mean, we always suggest starting with pilots and proofs of concept. Give us an organization, give us a team. Where are your biggest problems? Who's complaining the most? And let's start there and start with that organization. And well, Jessica, you could share a little bit about like what's your experience anyway with our customer success?
Well, and I would completely agree with you, David, that it was really easy. Like I said before, HireBrain is unique in that it fits in a spot that nothing's currently in, or most places don't have currently in, or so it was not that I had to retool, but I had to do enablement, but the lift was a lot lighter than I anticipated. And the customer support that we get from, I have to say, Julie Goff, who's on their team, she is just phenomenal. And they really have co-innovated with us, which is, again, something unique that we don't really get. And right now, I'm not even kidding that HireBrain has set the bar really high. And now we're asking all of our other vendors, well, will you co-innovate with us? Will you, be a partner and work with our business and figuring out what works best and retooling? And they're looking at us crazy, but that is honestly what makes my job really fun. And I think I'm able, and my team is able to exude that to managers and say hey, hiring people is actually a really fun part of your job. We don't want it to be the worst part. We want it to be something fun, innovative, that really impacts, what you're able to do as a team. So yeah, the customer support really made it fun and easy.
Well, I'm hearing this message resonating of partnership and doing that work together. Which is interesting. But Jessica, you've said it a couple of times now, how it's impacting talent acquisition in the recruiting team specifically. Can we go back to the comment you mentioned earlier about sort of retooling, rebuilding TA? So I guess my question to you is what would you say is probably the most significant impact just to the talent acquisition team, that side of the house?
Yeah, well, I mentioned when Master was mentioning about reframing your team, we are going through that right now because the role of the recruiter, and I don't think Nutanix is unique in this, is drastically changing. My team, my boss always says, your car mechanics today, you need to be jet fighter pilots tomorrow. And that's really what we are doing as recruiters. And that's not just Nutanix, that's everywhere, where recruiters are really needing to step into their space as being true experts, true customer advisors, truly having that eye for talent, prepping talent, selling talent. That's where their expertise has to evolve to. I think a lot of recruiters are there, but we need to what do they say? Step into the power. We got to step into the power, and reframing our team is a product of, we need to do that, right? What is a recruiter going to look like at our company in a couple of years? Something different. And so how do we make sure we do that in a thoughtful way? So again, fun time to be in recruiting.
Yeah.
It's
I had a question,
Jessica.
Yeah.
Jessica, one of the things that really sounds fascinating to me is that role design issue. And all of David mentioned 700 roles were designed that are maybe part of the future, et cetera. How does those new designs take place at Nutanix?
Yeah, so I think I got your question here, but we are partnering really closely with our development team and our Sorry, am I delayed here?
No, you sound good.
Okay, good. But we're partnering really closely with our other teams to make sure that that's really in connection, because what HireBrain's allowed us to do is reset the foundation. Like we don't have competencies right yet as a company, and a global career framework, but HireBrain is helping us build a global career framework aligned to, Radford, or, and kind of all of this kind of coming together to tell a holistic story, which has been really fun. So like I know HireBrain and myself and the teams have been not just TA, this is L&D, this is comp, this is total rewards, all coming together again with that new foundation that we've built, which is really cool.
Jerry, this is another thing that it's what led me to join Nutanix. This was the first company I've seen that looked at the hiring lifecycle not just as a short window, but at the entire employee lifecycle. Hiring doesn't just end here. You're consistently hiring, you're consistently reframing. If you're doing workforce planning, you're consistently re-recruiting and adjusting the skills matrix of your team. And so what I saw in the approach to role design with HireBrain was this is an application that bridges talent acquisition, it bridges L&D, and it looks at the entire employee experience across that timeline, and attempts to put some technology, some automation, and more importantly, some support for the hiring manager in all of those, what did we call them yesterday, Jessica? We called them fractures.
Yeah.
Where there isn't existing HR technology or infrastructure. So we're filling all of those voids, but from the hiring manager perspective versus the TA perspective.
So Master, what I hear you saying is HireBrain is not a replacement solution. It literally augments what's out there now and sort of fills in the gaps, if you will.
It does. When I started talking to David months ago, the Dow commercials kept popping into my head. We don't make something, we make something better. And that's really what HireBrain does. And that's why it's not a hard lift to implement. We're augmenting an existing infrastructure and we're filling those cracks. And by filling all those cracks, you end up with a much smoother experience, regardless of what your tech infrastructure is.
Yeah.
Are there, go ahead, David.
I was just going to say really fast, like we're not asking, here's the fundamental of it is that the idea is to help you to do your job, right? So what's hard? Creating a competency matrix or a skills taxonomy. What's hard is trying to articulate the skills needed to be in a role. But people can articulate what needs to be done. And so that's kind of the fundamental is whether that is on an intake call or whether it's an async process, either through either writing, if you will. If you're a writer, if you're a talker, you can talk to it. Tell us basically what it is that you need to be done, what needs to be accomplished. And our context-aware AI will build a draft for you of that role design. It'll build a draft for you of a forward-facing view of a job, right? So if that kind of makes sense, it's not that it's necessarily, it's simple and it's engaging. And so people do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it certainly does to me. I guess the next question I would have for you guys is, I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this. Who is the ideal company? Like what companies is it like a Jessica's team and that scales in that org, or is this something that immediately could be applied to, a Fortune 50 or, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Generally enterprise customers. It is true that, it's funny, Master asked me a question after meeting Jessica's boss, David Malloy. Do we need the most progressive, type A kinds of, personalities? Is that our ideal profile? That's a beautiful profile for us. But we have organizations who only use our job description optimization tool, because you can immediately globally have a job library where you can find and optimize any role within the position. You can change your template, and tomorrow all of your job descriptions are in the new template. Spell check, grammar check, all those kinds of things. So it is a variety of use cases, without a doubt. But solving those hard problems in a way that's simple and easy to do. That's what we live for. Ultimately, to help you hire better. But we can start wherever a company is on their journey.
I think that's a big call out too. Sorry, Master. It's a big call out too, is it doesn't have to be the entire platform. It doesn't have to be all of the solution. Perhaps you're only ready. Maybe your org's only mature enough for this or only budgeted for that. It's a great foot in the door. And JDs are kind of they've always been the most, we call the lowest hanging fruit that nobody picks. Like it's just really frustrating.
The lowest hanging fruit, right? From, we have a use case for compliance where certain roles, right, are by regulatory, right, rules have to have certain skills on them. What's really hard to do? Go into your ATS, find all those positions, type those skills against all those things, and then how do you QC check it, right? What are you going to do? Print them all off? How are you going to find that?
Well, I literally have an email in my inbox right now from our compliance team. It was like, hey, I need to audit all of our job descriptions for this. And I'm like, perfect. It makes my life so much easier because I was literally thinking, I was like, what would I do without HireBrain? I would have to print all these out, go to the site individually. It would be such a lift.
This is, when I started, I did ask David about the type A leader question, and my immediate thought went to organizations that have a high volume of white collar jobs. We have a phrase that no two jobs are the same, so why should the job descriptions be the same? And you walk into any organization, we have a customer right now that they have the same job title. It's deployed over 300 times, and none of those jobs are the same. They're in different groups, they're in different units, they're in different teams. So it's a fundamentally different job. And so while I do say that's our target, is organizations with a high volume of white collar professional roles, as David mentioned, global compliance or organizations with regulatory compliance issues, we have the ability to audit and enforce those compliance across all the teams in the organization. And when David approached Job Library, I think he did it the right way because, an engineering job description shouldn't look the same as a finance job description. They're two fundamentally different functions. They need to be defined and articulated in different ways. And the candidate populations are motivated by different things. And so HireBrain allows for different group specific templates. And so each organization within the umbrella organization can have its own design template. And we can enforce different requirements across each of those. So it's quite compelling for large, mature organizations that really, really struggle with how to bring employment brand forward, how to bring compliance forward, how to bring and attract a performance-oriented workforce. So there's just a lot of things that I found incredibly compelling.
I love that. So, Jessica, I'm going to ask you the question. The gentlemen do not get the question. Sorry, guys. We ask this of all of our guests before we wrap up. If you were going to write a book about your experience, the before, the during, the after with HireBrain and this work here, obviously you're a fan, but if you were going to write a book about that process and the end state, what would the title of your book be?
Well, that's a great question. I think I would have to say, I will kill myself trying to be too creative here, but basically relaying the foundation, righting the ship or relaying the foundation. That's really where what we've been able to do and what comes to mind first.
Yeah, I loved the repouring a foundation analogy used early.
If I was more construction savvy, I would have a better title, but
okay. You're just a cat looking out a window. That's
exactly.
That's fun. So let me ask you, Jessica, present company excluded, who's going to get the first signed copy of your book?
Who will my daughter, she's 4. So that would be the most important person to get a copy of my book.
We're going to need an illustrator is what I heard.
Yeah, she will be my #1 illustrator. Lots of hearts.
I love that. Well, look, Jessica, thank you so much for being on. David, Master, always great to see you guys again. And Jerry and I are just pleased as punch to have you guys when you can dial in and talk. We loved what we saw in June. Definitely thought this deserved a little more attention. I haven't seen anything else out there like this. Now, I'm not endorsing it. And we don't get a spiff. We don't get a payday. There's no incentive here. I just want to call it this. This is super interesting. We haven't seen anything like it. So we just want folks to be paying attention to it. So it's good stuff. Thanks for being on today. We really appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody else, cxr.work/podcast, past and future episodes, you can check that out. And don't forget to check out the marketplace, cxr.work/marketplace. That's it. We'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram @careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.